couple of little items to discuss in a minute. Before we get started, let's have a word of prayer. Lord, we do thank you for this day. Thank you that you allowed us to just have the breath of life this morning. Lord, we ask you to bless us as we meet, lead, guide, and direct us. Help us make decisions for our state that's going to be in the best interest of the good folks in the state of Georgia. Thank you for these committee members. Thank you for these folks that have an interest in this legislation before us. Bless us now. Go with us in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Let's take the easy one first here. We have got another St. Patty's Day holiday bill. That we hadn't had enough of these already. God, these people ought to be happy down there. Let me get you turned on.
This once and for all this year.
You think we're going to get it done forever?
I think we've got it resolved forever.
All right, we're going to look at Senate Bill 103.
Senate Bill 103.
I understand you passed another fine piece of legislation out of this House a couple of weeks ago.
We did.
Did a fine job on it, got it over to the Senate, and obviously our Senate friends are not playing as nice as we are.
That is correct. And so today we are left with Senate Bill 103, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee. And our challenge is that St. Patrick's Day is a week from today. And so in the interest of time, we actually support Senate Bill 103. This is the direction the Senate has chosen to go. Seems to make everybody happy. And I'll tell you, and again, the most important thing to say is this should resolve this once and forever so that we don't have to do this in future years. What they've done here is to explain that, unlike the House version, basically any community where you have Sunday sales, any community will now be able, by adoption of a resolution or an ordinance, have one Sunday a year for any kind of festival they might have. And as you'll recall, we had some questions, even when it was on the House floor, from folks who say, well, what about our festival in Middle Georgia or wherever? This seems to be an improvement that I support, and I think that I can assure you it solves our problem in Savannah.
Okay. This is Senator Jackson's bill, and he told me he apologized. He couldn't be here this morning to present, but we've got two good people over here to take care of this for us. Any questions by the committee? I got number 19.
Jesse, I heard you were going to host us down at the Ritz-Carlton on River Street for this next week if we pass this out.
I'll host you down there. It might be a different venue, Tom.
Gotcha.
All right, number 18. I think you were next.
Representative, wouldn't it be easier just to complete the process of Atlanta, the state of Savannah, and just make y'all a state?
Well, you know,
jettison Savannah? Wouldn't that be easier?
The dean of our delegation, I'll let him respond to that.
You move that. I move we put a toll road to Savannah then to help solve our transportation problems.
All right, we're moving downhill, seems like. Fast. Number 28. Do we have anything of note over here?
Thank you,
Representative
Mr. Chair.
Braddock.
Did you say this is for Festivus? Festivus for the rest of us?
Oh, God.
No, just kidding. I really do have a legitimate question.
Okay.
So is this replacing or going to replace the bill where we did the consecutive days, or this is going to be in addition to a
This
separate
will
bill?
replace the House version, which basically allowed 5 days either side of St. Patrick's Day.
Okay, so we're not doing that. We're doing this in lieu of that.
We're doing this in lieu of the one that passed the House, and this
Okay.
will just make it clear one Sunday
Okay.
per year.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Festivus for the rest of us. Hadn't heard that in a while.
Festivals. Okay. Never mind.
That was a Seinfeld program, I believe. It was a good one. All right. I see no other burning questions at this time. Got to move. We have a second. All in favor, let them say an aye. All right, sir, your bill is out, and we're going to need to get somebody over the rules really quick. So y'all are going over there now to make sure, because I think this will have to go on a supplemental calendar. So we need to get that out because the governor needs to sign this thing as quickly as possible. So we'll try to get it on supplemental tomorrow, hopefully. Thank you, sir.
We'll do that right now. Thank you.
Thanks
to all.
I see. All right. Let's see. I think we've got a copy of 152 on the desk now. So, Representative, would you come up, sir? I believe this bill was just heard in subcommittee. Chairman Powell, you want to tell us what happened there, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. After the Temperance Subcommittee met on
Temperance. I love that.
House Bill 152, and we passed it forward with a slight change from the. I think we got. I'm sorry, we have a new bill in front of us.
What else are you working on? We didn't change the LC number.
Okay. We did not change the LC number. It's been hand done. It didn't matter. It's LC. That's it. LC 362761S. We passed it with a due pass recommendation. If you look on page 2, to alleviate any concerns from GMA and ACCG, on line 30, after the word licensee, added.
Here, get your mic right here, sir, if you'll talk into that for us.
We added the word or, which would say or any person holding financial interest in the licensee, and then on line 31 struck the comma and added own.
Okay.
And this has passed the subcommittee with the due pass recommendation, and I so move.
All right. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate that. We do appreciate our Temperance Committee. Representative, we'll let you talk about the bill. We'll see if we've got any questions in full committee, sir.
Great. Thank you for this opportunity, and it dawned on me that when we're not in session, we don't have to wear a full coat and tie. Wish I would have gotten that email or memo. But you look marvelous. Thank you. Appreciate that. I want to thank Representative Harrell. Has helped me make this bill a lot better. His wisdom and energy and focus on this. The last time we were in a full committee, bring this forward. This is months of work with DOR, industry experts, industry folks that are invested in the industry, and also legislative council. So the problem, just to bring it back to where we met last time in full committee, this came to me first from a constituent that their 18-year-old son was beaten to death at a bar in Statesboro, Georgia. And the investigation that unfolded was not only a Statesboro problem, it was a state of Georgia problem. The particular location that this boy was beaten to death in had 71 citations in a 3-year period of time, yet not one administrative hearing from the locals. Ambulance trips 102 times went to this site, but yet nothing was changed. The DOR had no understanding or no information as to how many citations or what about accurate this was. But that didn't really bring forward the law. That was just an isolated problem. The investigation unraveled that this problem is happening statewide. And so what this bill does is a couple of things. I'll walk you through quickly. We've defined what a bar is. And what we've done is you'll notice a threshold of 75% is this massively high threshold. As you'll hear from folks in the industry and other folks, that this doesn't, as far as we understand, has no unintended consequences, but a very narrow range of locations, establishments that do nothing but pretty much serve alcohol, which is perfectly fine. No issues. That's their business model, and we've got no issues with that. But what we do have issues with is when they sell that much alcohol, and they're allowing 18s to enter and 21s to drink. We created an environment that is destined to fail. And so what this does is says if you derive 75% or more of your revenue from alcohol, then we just want the folks to be inside of that to be 21 years old. We also tighten up some reporting requirements. What we do is we say that if you are one of those entities that fit into that very high threshold of alcohol sales, that if you receive a citation from your locals, we want you to report to the Department of Revenue that you've received that citation. We want there to be a level of accountability with either the owner or management of that location. And it gives the commissioner the ability to fine up to $750 per citation. The third piece is this has been on the books for 30 years. You'll see a little bit of a rewrite here. It's mostly a modernization. But for 30 plus years, it's been on the books that if a city or county issues a citation, they are required to report to the Department of Revenue. So that DOR has the data necessary to make an informed decision each year whether or not they're going to stamp the approval on a renewal on an alcohol license. So this tightens up that language. It suggests, doesn't mandate, but suggests that shall by resolution or ordinance adopt a policy and implement a process. So we suggest for cities and counties, Because what we realized in this investigation was that there was only 3 out of 700 cities and counties in Georgia that actually report to the Department of Revenue, which is a staggering statistic for us to look at. The only real rewrite in this code section is that we add a shot clock. For 30 years it said that they should do this, but it didn't say in what amount of time. We had 45 days. We've met with ACCG, GMA, and they seem to be on board with that. They have no issues. The last 2 pieces here is that we created a definition for the word bouncer. We spent a lot of time doing this. If you ever sat down and tried to define the word bouncer, it's not easy. And we tried to make sure that we didn't grab any unintended consequences. But this is to really alleviate a problem that all of you could probably envision this happening. Just say a college bar, you've got an 18, 19-year-old bouncer, and they're faced with the peer pressure of many of their friends, fraternity brothers, whatever the situation is, walking by them, and they're placed with the huge responsibility of putting a band on that individual that's going to allow them to drink the rest of the night without being ID'd. And so what we think is that this doesn't absolutely solve the problem. What it does is it creates a statistical advantage that it's going to happen more often than not by having an older person at that front door whose peers and colleagues are probably closer to the drinking age of 21. With that, I'd love to answer any questions. This has been a great opportunity for us for me personally, to try to create a balance between what I think is good public policy and also good for the private sector. We think that this gives state and local officials the tools that they're going to need to combat what seems to be a statewide problem. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Let me ask you a question. You talked about the lack of reporting to the Department of Revenue, and that came up before, but I think for clarity, I believe the only thing the Department of Revenue was required to be reported to the department was if they were underage drinking in the premises, or if they'd come in and done a inspection or something, and they caught underage drinking. Was that correct? A lot of these other issues were not required to be reported to the department.
I believe so.
So most of these citations that were issued in these areas would not have been required to be reported up anyway, unless it was underage drinking in the past. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that.
And since full committee last time, we've really tightened that language up to be related citations or arrests related to the license and also on premise, and that's what was actually adjusted in the subcommittee meeting right before here. We wanted to make sure, based on GMA's recommendations, that we didn't want somebody to be arrested off-site for some unrelated reason and then create this paper trail to DOR and all this reporting requirements.
Okay.
It's laser focused.
And now you mentioned, I thought I heard it mentioned at one time, I don't see it in here, about requiring even to go into these places you be 21, but we didn't. That's not in here. It's just the bouncer has to be 21. Is that correct?
Actually, in the section starting on line 68.
Okay, maybe I missed it. Okay.
What we've done is by raising, we've defined bar, state level definition of bar at some massively high threshold of 75%, which.
Oh, okay. Okay, I was
so
thinking that was part of the bouncer.
You can't be 21 to enter, and also brought up in subcommittee prior to this was if that meant 21 as an employee, and my answer was that was the intended purpose of this, is to not even have an employee who's under 21 be in these high alcohol establishments. The particular instance, the unfortunate part of the Gatto family's story is that the gentleman that beat their son to death was an underage, intoxicated employee of the establishment.
Okay. All right, questions for the committee? I see no questions. Department of Revenue, are y'all comfortable in handling this regulation that comes to you? Thank you, sir. All right.
Perfect time. I'd like to make a motion.
All right. We had one motion over here already, but
Either way.
we got a move in a second to do pass. Any questions on this piece of legislation? All right, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Thank you, Representative. I appreciate your work on this. I think we've got a good bill, so you need to try to get it on the rules calendar, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Representative Taylor, y'all had a meeting in subcommittee also, I believe.
Yes, sir. We passed out as a sort of work in progress HB 153. Would have still preferred this thing stayed in judiciary, but it landed here.
Yes. I'm sorry, that was a do pass by substitute as amended. I'm sorry, that was a do pass by substitute that we just as amended. Thank you. Forgot to bring that up. A little crazy this morning. All right. I'm sorry. Back to you.
Yes, sir. We passed this out about 15 minutes ago, sort of as a work in progress. Sean Reed has worked on some language with Representative Weldon, bringing it here. I heard a lot of testimony. I think there was a lot of compromises made, and people are kind of getting on board with this, but I think we still need to ask some questions here and get it clarified.
Okay. This was passed out of subcommittee. Let's see what we can do here. Chairman Weldon, you want to come to the podium there or seat, whichever's easier on you, brother?
Either way.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam
I think
Chair.
she must have been in subcommittee.
I think I got all my talking out in the subcommittee, really. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for having me here to present this bill, and thank you to the subcommittee. Appreciate you hearing the bill. We did have some changes, and there has been quite a bit of cooperation among the stakeholders that are here today. I think many of them are here today.
Give us the LC, if you would. Make sure we've all got the right LC that we're working off of, sir.
I have LC 296554S as amended.
It's got the handwriting on the amendment on the back of it. Okay. Okay. All right, sir. Sorry to stop you. Go ahead, Mr. Chair.
I'm not sure if everybody has a copy of the handwriting on the bill. So you've got it as amended then.
We do.
Okay. This bill is intended to give a legislative or a statutory right of remedy to someone who's injured by another person who's practicing law without a license, specifically those that are operating title closing agencies. And what I think about when I think about this unauthorized practice of law is these mobile title closing people. They're not agents because they're not really people that are working for a lawyer. They could be agents of another corporation, but they're just folks that they call up whenever you see on TV or you get a phone call or an email and fill out this application, send that application in. They either call you or email you back and say you qualify for X amount of loan, and then they want to use your house or residential real property as collateral. They send you a package, you fill it out, or somebody comes to your house with a package, or they send you the package, and when that person comes there to execute it, they go through the documents, you sign it, and then they give it back to them, and they're not lawyers. They're not paying people to be responsible about how they handle the things. And what we're having is a lot of out-of-state companies come in, some in-state also, and they have these loan packages. They get closed by somebody who's not trained in this kind of work. And then just a myriad of problems happens for the homeowner. The documents don't get filed right. They don't get executed right. They don't have proper legal descriptions. Just all sorts of problems. Lots of folks. We've had stories today from the real property section, and that they told us several examples today of people they've represented or people they know of that have had problems where they were at risk of losing their homes, and they had problems with subordination of loans and just things that shouldn't go wrong. And if they go wrong when a lawyer closes, generally speaking, you have a lawyer to recover from, and hopefully a malpractice insurance policy that's been sold, Mr. Chairman, and purchased by those lawyers to protect those folks. So what this bill does, it just gives them a right to recover their damages, and that's long and short of it. I'd be glad to answer any questions if I can.
Got questions? Anybody got questions? Now,
applies to non-lawyers, right?
Yes.
Okay. So does this insulate lawyers?
No, it doesn't. No.
Get them off the hook with a mistake?
It doesn't insulate any lawyer. They're still on the hook for negligence.
all right. Chairman Powell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I notice there's some language in here that deals with real estate brokers, sales agents, associate brokers, and the such.
Yes, sir.
Is your intention to be meddling into the business of the real estate profession? Or?
Only to the degree that it allows real estate agents to conduct business like I believe they have been, and to do what's incidental to their license to be a realtor.
So is there anything in here that would be arbitrary to, say, a broker or a salesperson in helping to fill out listing contracts, sales contracts, and things such as that?
Well, there is some things specific to that. It says that a broker, associate broker, or salesperson licensed pursuant to Chapter 40 of Title 43, and I believe that's real estate agents, and they can provide information and advice to their principals, clients, and customers in matters involving the listing, management, sale, purchase, exchange, renting, lease, option, or other conveyance of real estate. And it also provides that they can provide legal forms to them, and they can fill out those legal forms. There's a difference between practicing law and negotiating. You and I can negotiate over terms, and we can fill in the terms and stipulations that are required most of the time in a real estate contract. And this law right here, if this is signed into law, this will provide protection and put the state's imprimatur upon real estate agents who are conducting business that way.
So basically, the canned documents that we use, the templates that we're using as contracts now that's been scrutinized by legal counsel, then it would not prohibit us or put us in any harm's way of conducting business the way we do, or that real estate brokers and agents do currently.
I think it specifically provides that legal instruments prepared by an attorney for principals, that real estate agents can complete legal instruments prepared by legal counsel. It provides it. You're authorized to do that.
Thank you.
Chairman Weldon, on lines 26 through 30, that's section C over here. Go over that, because that talks about the actual closing itself.
This says that a real estate broker, associate broker, or salesperson is not authorized by this code section to close a real estate transaction. That is the execution of conveyance documents like a deed, security deed. The reason that I believe that's in there is because the Supreme Court has identified that specifically in an advisory opinion as being the practice of law.
Okay.
And this is an unauthorized practice of law bill.
Now, but nowhere in here that I see, unless it's one of these code section, and I'm not a lawyer, but the attorney has to be licensed in the state of Georgia. Is that correct? They have to be licensed in the state of Georgia to close these things?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We've generated a few more questions here. Number 24. You were next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Weldon, on line 32, we've struck out the word person, which I understand could be a company, a partnership, or what have you, and inserted the word consumer. Would you speak to the choice of the word consumer versus, for example, individual?
Well, consumer, throughout the code it's used, and in this context, we're intending that to mean a consumer of residential real estate. And if you'll, the next few words, any consumer who is a party to, and then we've inserted a 1 to 4 family residential real estate transaction. And this is the reason we're putting consumer in there is to keep it away from commercial real estate transaction. It's a line of demarcation in addition to the 1 to 4 family residential real estate terms. And we want to allow commercial real estate. You're on your own. If you're dealing with commercial real estate, you need to be sophisticated, and is
a consumer buyer and a seller, or is a consumer just a buyer, or who could be the consumer?
I think a consumer could be both.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Number 18.
Representative, you're actually not taking anything away from real estate folks as I see this bill. You're just reiterating, like on line 28, that no person or voluntary association shall close other than an attorney. So you're actually providing protection for the buyer and the seller. Is that correct?
That's the point.
That's what we're doing.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's the point. But to what you're saying about residential real estate, we're actually putting into law protections for realtors. And if lines 16 through 25, that's protections that are not in the law today.
Oh, okay.
That
Good.
we are providing, and that's a result of Keith and the realtors
Great.
working
Okay.
with us, and I appreciate you guys helping us with that and working with us.
All right, Mr. Witt.
Just to Representative Hawkins' point, I mean, ultimately what we're doing here, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is we've got a kind of a gap in the law right now. We've got an unauthorized practice of law statute, and the consumer has no remedy if they're harmed. And this just gives them a remedy. The language for the realtors is just to kind of protect what they're already doing, to make sure they never get swept into the UPL statute. We don't intend that the practice of helping consumers fill out a form contract that's prepared by the GAR, which has a huge body of lawyers that help draft those forms. I think it's a very good bill, and what Chairman Weldon has done from the beginning, the work he's done to work with all the different groups is just really commendable. I think you've done an excellent job in dealing with everyone's concerns. I think we've got a good product right now.
Well, thank you very much. I owe much of that to John and Keith and Thomas Worthy, for sure.
Must have excellent help.
Appreciate that vote of confidence.
All right. Any other questions from committee members at this time?
Make a motion.
All right. We got a motion
Do pass.
as substitute as amended by the committee. And let's go over these amendments, if you would. Make sure everybody's straight, because on line 13 looks like we have an amendment at the end of line 13. You got title 43, comma, a seller of real property. Is that correct?
Comma.
Okay,
Comma.
comma. Yeah, I'm sorry. Got to have a comma. Title 43, comma, a seller of real property, comma. That's one of the amendments. On line 32, if I'm correct, a consumer who is a party to a 1-4 family residential real estate transaction or a party to a bankruptcy proceeding that involves a 1-4 family residence real property who is damaged, and then it continues on.
I think it should be family residential on line 33.
Family residential. Okay.
And I think one before, elsewhere in the code, it's 1-2 TO -4. 1 and 4 spelled out.
1 ONE
-TO FOUR.
Okie dokie. 1, you got it. 1-TW. Okay. Say that again, ma'am. What's your number down there? Okay.
So to be 1 ONE -2 TO -4 FOUR, family residential.
All right, that's what the rest of the code appears to have. So that's how this bill will be drafted as substitute. That's all right by the committee. So it's going to be a substitute
Substitute HB 153.
to 153 as amended by committee. That's what we're voting on, and we've heard the amendments again. We got to move. Second. Any other discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Any opposed, like sign. All right. I think it's passed. So, yeah. Yeah, we'll tell you a little later. This bill has passed. You need to go to rules, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, committee.
I've got one more announcement before everybody leaves. The Eagle Rock trip on the 22nd. If you have not RSVP'd, we've got buses going to come over and take us up to the studio on the 22nd. We need to try to go. Yes, sir, Mr.
I just want to say, if you haven't been up there, it's quite the operation. They run a beer business and a movie studio in the same place. So It's
Yeah.
a very interesting trip.
Beer and movies. So RSVP to Julie. We will be sending out another email today, making sure everybody knows about it. Nothing else come before the committee. We are dismissed. Thank you very much.